Welcome, one, welcome all, to another edition of The RunDown, the best show on the internet concerning speedrunning topics. I'm here with my main man, Simp. How you feeling?
What is up, Alt? I am feeling amazing. It has been a beautiful couple of days going on GSA and outside of GSA these past, So I'm excited to talk about it with these beautiful men we've got coming up. Tell me a little bit about what's going on.
We got some hot people here, in every sense of the word. We got Panga. We got Thabeast, and we're going to talk to them at length, in an hour or less, actually. But we're going to talk to them about all the hot speedrunning topics right now. ESA is going on right now. It's the hot speedrunning event that's going on right now. We also just finished the Super Mario Maker Invitational. We're going to talk about that, of course, with the winner and another contestant. But first, let's get to the GSA news, and that starts with you, my friend.
GSA news. All right, I will give you guys the rundown for what has gone on in the leagues these past couple of weeks. The players have been getting together, competing, trying to make it into Season 2's leagues. So, first off, we had Celeste. The 90% League Qualifier Tournament has now come to a conclusion. Marlin winning in the Grand Finals over Aurora Dash, but both of them will be going on to the Season 2 League, as well as Programmatic and Archie Boy 666. Beyond that, we have Super Mario Odyssey, where the top 5 players in the tournament make it into Season 2's league. And those players, in order from 1st to 5th, Mitch taking it home in the Grand Finals over Tyrone. He's changed his name now, so I'm not really sure. It's on the fence. I'm not really sure if he's Tyrone or Tyren, but he is a guy, and he definitely got second in the tournament. We'll be going on to the Season 2 league along with Tyler Tech and MeWe. And there was a 4-man cage match in which Lucidity made it out to be the 5th place winner, and will be going on to the Season 2 league. And last but not least, the Super Mario 64 qualifier. The top 3 players go on to a promotion playoff series.
Ooh.
And those top 3 players are Saxdale, Blue Bob, and Draws for a chance to get into Division 1. And it is a 4-person playoff with Momo from Season 1's Division 2. It's a lot to follow, perhaps. It took me a little while to understand what's going on, but basically, 1 player will be going on to Division 1. The other 3, or the 2, will be going on into Division 2, along with a 5th place finisher decided in the same way by the losers of the quarterfinals going into a cage match, which has not happened yet, but will be going on this week. And that is everything in terms of the leagues. So, yeah.
That's it. That's where you go, guys.
Man.
Usually we're going to have a video there. There was some complications this week. Simply can attest to that. A few complications in the video process. But next time we'll have a video. There you go, guys. GSA news up to date. Now it's time to bring in our 2 legends. Now we have a room full of 3 legends. We have, on my bottom. That's not the right way to say that. Right below me, the Super Mario Maker level creator. I shouldn't say Super Mario Maker. You've done a lot of stuff outside of that as well. The man, the legend, Panga. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling pretty good so far.
Pretty good so far. He's hyped up. I'm hyped up as well. And next we have, coming off his hotness, the championship of the Super Mario Maker Invitational, Thabeast 721. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm great. It's going well.
It is nice to have you here today. So I guess we should start talking about, really, what are we going to talk about? Super Mario Maker, the Invitational, the Super Mario Maker release, everything. It's hot right now. It is extremely hot. One of the hottest speedrunning games there is. I mean, is there one bigger than that? I don't think so. So I guess Thabeast, let's talk to you first. When you went in, were you confident? How were you feeling before you started that Invitational? And, were you surprised by the outcome? Were you expecting it? Are you confident? Let us know.
I was pretty confident, but I'd never raced, like in Mario Maker 1 we had the 100-man challenge. I'd never really raced that, and I knew, you could get such a crazy range of levels. You could be a puzzle or a maze or 10-second level, you never know. So I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but once it went on, especially in the expert round, it was like, because we could skip if we got a puzzle or something, it was I definitely felt like, whoever was better usually came out on top. I mean, it's obviously affected a bit, but I thought it was really fun. And then Like there was a lot of crazy upsets that I did not think would happen at all. That was pretty shocking, but overall it was a lot of fun, and I really liked it.
Simp?
I thought it was the thing that threw me off the most was probably the easy round. I feel like doing the easy endless was a huge toss up, like rolling the dice, because you'd have the 3-minute puzzles. Like someone could repeatedly get them. You're always going to finish them, but it's about getting those really fast ones. And so the upsets were pretty upsetting. But normal seemed to sort of balance it out a little bit more. Well, what are your thoughts, Panga?
Yeah, I mean, I got knocked out after easy, so I can't attest to the normal onwards. But easy was pretty much a hand. Yeah, it was a toss up in the air. You could get the, like you said, the 3-minute puzzles, and then sometimes you get really lucky and get the 2-second clears. When I was doing it in my match, I kind of started off pretty well. Like I got like 10-20 second levels, and then near the middle I got like a stretch of 3, like world record was 2 minutes, so I just had to keep skipping. And then I also had one really unlucky level where it was pick a warp block, and all 4 of them, or there's 4 of them, and only one of them led to the goal, and the other 3 led to death. So I tried to push my luck, and I went twice, and I died both of the times. So I just ended up skipping, which kind of wasted some time since that could have been a clear. And easy really is kind of just like who's gonna get the luckier levels, the shorter levels. And I guess you could say I got kind of unlucky, but I also died at the end because easy there is some strats, because you can choose to forego the power-ups, because a lot of people put power-ups in easy levels, and if you want to go fast, you don't want to waste the time to get that. So I kind of took a risk on a few levels and ended up dying at the very end, which costed me a lot of time. So there is some strategy to easy, but there's also the element of luck.
I want to know, like, as someone that creates levels, and you kind of obviously have to think about how a level is made and stuff like that. What about the format? Like, if you could make your own Super Mario Maker format, Panga, and the Beast, I'll ask you as well. But let's start with Panga. How would you do it, right? Because that's a tough game to make a format for, right? You don't really know how to make it, right? Well, how would you make a tournament?
Probably the best way would to have designated level designers that make levels for the tournament every however long, like weekly. So that way that element of luck is kind of reduced, and it comes down to who's the better player at playing these blind. That's something we've done in the Super Mario ROM hack community, where we create weekly blind races that we race. So I think if you transfer that over to Super Mario Maker 2, it would probably be around the same, and I think that would be the best way at the moment.
The Beast, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. Like, if you definitely want the most skilled player to win, probably almost every time, if it's the same levels and nobody's seen them, then that's usually what will happen. But I don't know how like the viewers feel, but like I don't know. It's kind of like in a speed run. People say, "Why do you speed run a game that has RNG?" Well, when somebody starts getting the good RNG in a run, like chat gets hyped and you know everybody gets excited, and that's why, because it's kind of like high stakes. But I do agree that it sucks to get bad RNG, like in like single elimination or something. Just kind of feel screwed. But yeah, I think having creators like Panga was saying, in Mario World we have a race. It's just one level every week, and even with that tiny pool of people playing hacks versus Mario Maker, there's people, you know, they want to create levels. That's just the issue, I guess, is getting people to make them, vet them, like make sure it's not way too hard and just nobody can beat it, or it's just terrible, you know. It's a long process. Like, you need people to test it and be like, hey, you should change this. Some people may think, oh man, you're changing my level. I wanted to build this, but you know, you may say that's too hard. And there's a lot of things that go into it, like behind the scenes. Even for the race, the Invitational, there was a lot happening backstage that kept things running smoothly. So I guess the more you add into it, it just becomes more and more complex to, you know, a game with millions of levels to keep everything on an even playing field for like every single event.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Level makers is definitely something that we plan on having in the future, at least for the league. We're reaching out because, like you said, like there is an interesting aspect to the RNG, and I feel like expert endless, normal endless maybe, but expert endless could be pretty interesting. You're always going to get the puzzle levels. You're always going to get these troll levels where there's just something that happens that you couldn't possibly know, and the less of that, I think maybe a little bit here and there is fine, but when it's an overdose, it's not as fun for the players or as fair.
It's a tough line to go, right? You want to have the best players, not 100% of the time win, but you want to have them most of the time win, right? Because if it's upset, if it's just a random toss up, anyone can enter and anyone can win. That's not what you want really, because you want to see the skill on display. You know what I mean? So it's a really tough balance with Mario Maker how to show that, because yeah, you have to walk the line between showing the skill, having the skill be rewarded, and also having some random elements, because everyone likes upsets too, right? So that's the thing. That's the tough part of it. So how about, Mario Maker's obviously hotter than ever. Everyone's loving it. What do you think about that in terms of speedrunning, right? In terms of viewership and stuff? Because for me, and that's Mario Maker's viewership is very much dependent on personality of the person running, right? Rather than, hey, this person's the best at it, maybe, right? I mean, maybe I'm saying something that's incorrect there, but I think it's really the biggest personalities get the most viewership, and if in Super Mario Maker, in Super Mario Maker. So, do you think there is still space for the best skill to gain a viewership from just Super Mario Maker? That maybe they don't have the best personality. You know what I mean? Because in other games, that's definitely the case. If the best Super Metroid runner, no matter the personality, get people to watch them. But is that true for Super Mario Maker? Does skill still attract the viewership, or is it more personality in this game? I'll ask you first, Sim.
I mean, from what I've seen, the top players, while they do have great personality, they're also very talented at the game.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot of crossover. I think that definitely with a community like Mario 64, if you're going for the world record, you're like a top player. You're pretty much going to be at the top of the viewership or very close. But the thing about Mario Maker is there's not like, oh, this record is the one that's hot. Like there's so many levels and so many world records to be grinding on that it's hard for someone to be like, oh wow, they're going to get the world record for this one type thing. But then you have Panga coming through with the fat levels, the hardest levels. So I think if you're someone who can consistently clear like very hard levels very quickly and get many world records, then I definitely think there's room for that.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Panga, let's talk about you. So obviously you're known for making levels and stuff, and everyone knows Panga with the Super Mario Maker. So I was looking through your history to get ready for the episode, and like if someone had to create like the perfect, history to be an awesome level maker, it seems to be you. So can you walk us through a little bit of your kind of history with creating Mario stuff? How did you start with that, and kind of what's your history there?
My history dates back to 2007 when I was 11 years old. I stumbled across a bunch of YouTube videos. Some of them went viral of really difficult Mario levels. And it was actually a video called Asshole Mario, which is referred to as Kaizo right now. It's not what Kaizo means, but they called it Asshole Mario because that's what it looked to be.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 11, I was like, hey, this looks really cool. I kind of want to make some levels. So I did some research on how to do that, and then eventually stumbled across Super Mario ROM hacks. And I've been making those since 2007, so roughly 12 years now. And back then, I made a hack called Item Abuse, which is what is known to be kind of the hardest Super Mario ROM hack. And from there, I didn't really try to make easy levels. I was only just making hard levels. And when Mario Maker came out, I kind of transitioned over to that to see how it would differ from ROM hacks. And you can do some cool things in Mario Maker, but not as many things as you can do in ROM hacks. But as Mario Maker grew, I kind of stuck with it, and then more people kind of got into the hard levels. Like, I'm sure that's how Thabeast kind of heard about Kaizo, and eventually when Super Mario Maker 2 came out, I just continued doing it from all the past experiences in Mario Maker 1 and ROM hacks. So that's kind of a little brief history of my Mario making experience.
Wow, yeah, it's think about how long that is, guys. 12 years. I mean,
yeah, that's insane.
That's crazy. It just and I guess the opposite side of things, the Beast, you're more of a, I know you make levels too, but you're more of a, obviously a great player of it. I looked at your speedrun.com history page. Not much there. I was surprised to learn. So what's kind of your history of speedrunning? What's your history with Mario?
Yeah, so I've been like watching speedrunning for, gosh, like back in the Siglimic days of,
Oh, hype.
I guess it was called Justin.tv back then.
Oh wow.
You know, I never really got into actually doing it. I love watching, like learning. I'll ask like, "Hey, how's this trick performed? Like, what do you call this?" I like to learn the tech and learn about it, but actually when I pick up a game and I try to play it, I'm like, I don't know, I just maybe it's too hard or something, but I'm just like, I like to watch a lot better. Like, you really, if you want to be competitive, you got to invest hundreds of hours really into the game, and uh, that's why I like Mario Maker so much because it's millions of levels. If I want to beat one level, it's, I don't know, 5 minutes or an hour or 10 hours, and then you're just done with it. Like, you could grind it, try to beat it faster or whatever, but it's kind of different from speedrunning. It's more like a variety content type thing. Like you play a level and you're like, okay, I have 7 million more I can choose from now. But yeah, I got into Kaizo specifically in Mario Maker because Panga had like a super famous level called P-Break back like in the early, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks after Mario Maker came out. I'd never even heard of the game. I just saw on Reddit somebody's like, this guy beat this level after 9 hours. It's the hardest level ever. And I watched it and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. Like, I want to play that. So I got the game and I just started playing like all the hard levels I could find. And from there, it's just like, it's kind of like an addiction. Like people say, why do you want to play this? This looks like torture, but it's kind of like, the end result, it's fun along the way too, but the end result, it just feels great. Like for a speedrunner, like, you reset for weeks, months, then you get a PB or a world record, and it's like, it's amazing. It feels great, but then you're like, I want to do better, like, so you keep improving. Yeah, I see a lot of links between like, especially with Mario Maker 2 coming out, there's been some speedrunners, like Cool Kid and Valu, who I'd never seen them playing Mario Maker 1, and they're out here clearing like crazy Mario Maker 2 levels, and it's really cool. Like their skills are just transitioning really quick because a lot of players, if they've not had platforming experience like at a high level, it would take ages to learn just all the tricks that you need just to beat like some of the easier Kaizo levels, and it's really interesting to see how quick those guys can pick it up.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff in Mario Maker. I whenever I watched it and watched these crazy levels, I'd be like, wow, that looks really hard. But I actually just got Mario Maker a couple days ago, and it's really hard. Like, I can't clear normal levels. I'm like, I mean, I never really played 2D platformers, but there's a lot to it, a lot of depth, and I'm not even into the tech, like shell jumps and stuff like that. It's crazy.
When you're making levels, Panga, so what's your process like? Do you think of like a theme, or do you say like let's just see what happens when I go through it? Like, what's your process of creating a level?
Generally, I start with a theme, an overall theme for the level that I build off of. So, like for example, the last level I made was based on the clear pipes of 3D World. A lot of people ask me this question too, and believe it or not, I kind of just make things as I go. I have never once planned out a level start to finish. A lot of the level design process is me just tinkering around and trying to put two things together, like two enemies, and see how they interact, and be like, hey, what does this do? Or like, I try to think of a situation or a scenario and be like, is this gonna work? And then after like a bunch of testing, I can find that what I want might actually work. So I kind of see if I can fit it in the level, and I build off of that. So all these different sections, they kind of transition into each other into an actual level. I kind of wing it. I guess a lot of my experience comes from the ROM hacks because I also wing that. So I'm not sure what would happen if I actually plan out a level start to finish. It might look like garbage, it might look like a masterpiece, but from my 12 years, I just make as I go.
Awesome.
As you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say like they work together. Like when you watch them, they look beautifully made. Like it's like this. You see this kind of. They do see those themes come back, and yeah, some of them are just you don't know how you can get past a point, and then you watch someone play. You're like, wow, okay, that's how you're supposed to do that. Because like I can't even get past the first like jump in all these levels. So it's like I never try to play them. I just watch. And that watching just entertaining enough though. Some of them it looks so cool. So the Beast. I want to go to you. So now that you found the Super Mario niche, and you're streaming and stuff. Well, the question I ask is, what's next? Do you even think about that? Do you care about that? Is it something you want to keep going, or what?
Yeah, I mean, we never really, like, most of us in the community, we thought that there would never be a Mario Maker 2. We thought, because Nintendo put out, I think, 2 updates for the first one and then just abandoned it. And we were like, oh, I guess this was just an experiment, and now they're doing other stuff. Then when we heard about this new one, like, I was shocked, like so many people were, and it feels like this is going to be like a mainstay on their consoles. Like, I could see just keep either constantly updating it and just porting it out to the new console, or a lot of people talk about like they want to see a Zelda maker, like be able to make your own dungeons and stuff.
Hot.
Or I don't know, like Mario Kart. They give out all these makers, and you got to wonder how complex could it get, because you see ROM hacks, like it's the dedicated fan base, they want to play it, like the people know what they're doing. But Mario Maker, a little 5-year-old kid has to be able to pick it up and build a level. And could they do that with a 3D game, or build a Zelda dungeon that somebody would enjoy? Like, I don't know how it would go, but I plan to just play this game as long as I can, I guess, till they take the server down, or if I somehow get bored of it. But I don't see that happen.
I think the world would love Mario Kart Maker would be just insane. I mean, I think it'd be a lot more nuance to it. Like, you can't just. It's not as free flowing as Mario, right? Like, that'd be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think TD or 2D makes the most sense. 3Ds would be really interesting to see. I feel like we'd see, like, you have garbage in 2D and you're like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of garbage, but a 3D like you'd get some you'd get some trash, I can imagine, but it'd definitely be a good time. But I do want to ask, and I'll start with Panga, going from Mario Maker 1 to Mario Maker 2, what are the things that you're noticing? What does it feel different? Does it play different? What are your thoughts?
It doesn't feel as different for me as other people. The biggest change that a lot of people have complained about is the first of all, you can't spin jump while holding an item, and also the fact that when you throw an item, there's like a slight delay, so you have to pre-release the throw button for like shell jumps or like throwing anything, which you really have to get used to, because it makes you learn a different timing, since throwing or dropping items still appears to be about the same time. So when you drop items, you have to be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to do the normal time. But when you like throw things, you'd be like, oh, I have to consciously think about throwing it earlier. And
really?
Yeah, it was one of the first things people found out. Like, when everyone was playing Mario Maker the first day, they were like, wow, shell jumps are weird now. And I was like, how's that possible? And they're like, oh, you have to throw it earlier. So when I first played it, I was like, wow, you're actually right. This feels so weird. And it's something that we'll probably get used to maybe after, like, I guess at this point, people have already gotten used to it, but it's still just tragically weird. And the other thing that I've noticed, and a lot of people have complained about, including myself, is the hitboxes of spikes and munchers. Those things are giant, man. Like, it feels like you're a mile away from them and you still hit it. But I think the tops and bottoms of the spikes and munchers have been a little smaller. But those 2 things are probably the first things I noticed when playing a game. But otherwise, the movement to me feels the same. It's not too different. You still feel really floaty. That was probably my biggest complaint with Mario Maker physics, is when you like try to turn around, you spend so long decelerating and trying to build up.
Yeah,
or
slippery,
like,
man.
Yeah, it's so slippery, and jumping, you just feel like you're in space half the time. At least for me, compared to the original Super Mario physics, it's like learning an entirely different game, even though they're the same game.
What about you, Beef?
Interesting.
Yeah, the things Panga said, definitely true. I actually thought my Switch had input lag or something, because I was trying to do a shell jump, and I've done thousands in Mario Maker 1, and I couldn't hit a single one. And then it turns out, people were saying there's like I think it's like a 5-frame delay between Mario Maker 1 and 2 when you kick an item, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but something that you've done thousands of times, you don't even have to think about it. Now you're suddenly like, well, now I have to do it differently. And it didn't take as long to get used to as I thought, but a lot of players are still like, we're like almost a month in or something. They're still struggling with it, and I can definitely see why. But yeah, overall the game, the like core physics are pretty much the same. Like jumping, he runs the same, he jumps the same. Yeah, the momentum thing, all that feels the same. And if you weren't like a high level player, you just casually played the game, you may not even notice that anything was different. We're seeing all these differences in like Kaizo tricks, like doing midair spring jumps and things. It's a lot different, but 99% of players will never do one of those. So it probably just feels like, hey, it's the same game. They added all this cool stuff. And like every day, even in Mario Maker 1, when the game was still like in the last couple days, we constantly were finding new tricks, new techs that nobody had ever seen. And now with they added all this new stuff, we're finding like it seems like hundreds of new things every day. And it will slow down eventually, but it's just exciting. And then if they add DLC to the game, like say they just add one new enemy, well, now you have that enemy pairs with 50, 60, whatever other things, and it just exponentially grows with all the new stuff people can do. And I'm not too creative in building. I mean, I build stuff, but people like Panga or a lot of the other makers, like they just experiment with stuff and be like, oh, that's cool, that looks cool. And I think we're not even close to seeing all the crazy stuff people are going to come up with.
How about when you make a level, Panga? Is your goal really as difficult as possible, or you are hoping that there is some? Do you have some kind of tier of difficulty, or is just as hard as possible is where you want to be, as long as it's still interesting?
I think over the years of Mario Maker, I've developed some tiers. So we have the lowest tier, which is a level that might take like a normal person, just a casual player. If they decide to play one of my levels, it will take them 5 to 10 hours with checkpoints. So I strive to make a couple of those, but generally what happens is I end up bumping it up to tier 2, which is a level that takes regular Kaizo players 5 to 10 hours. So
Nightmare
when
zone.
I make levels,
Yeah.
when I make levels, I try to cater to a bigger population of people so that more people will play it. But at least, especially in the couple past weeks of Mario Maker 2, all of my levels have developed into a grind fest for even like people like Thabeast, who are very well seasoned in the game. So I try to make easier levels, but generally what happens is as I build things, I'm like, oh, this is super cool, but the problem is it's really hard. So the last couple levels I made have been like, even for me, a couple hours to clear. But ideally, I would make levels like Skyzo, which is one of my more popular levels, and a lot of people played that one, and a couple people have taken like maybe 1-2 hours, and those are the type of levels that I think would appease the most for me as a level designer, and those are the ones I want to make. But generally, they just end up being way too hard, and I don't really aim to be like, this level is going to be the hardest level ever. I've only done that with 2 levels in Mario Maker 1, and I might do one in Mario Maker 2, but I don't really have an interest in making the hardest possible at the moment. I just want to make challenging levels that will take people like a couple hours.
Do you think that it's, let's say you're someone new to the game, new to Mario Maker, would it be worth their time to, like, first level, go for Panga's level? Do you think that they teach a lot about mechanics, or it's like once you've got your mechanics down, it's sort of getting them all in one go?
I personally feel like you should understand the mechanics before even playing my easiest level. If you are new to the game and then you go dive deep into like probably the hardest level you ever play, I don't think you're gonna get a lot of value out of it, because probably one of the things I've picked up recently is learning about your deaths. and learning why you died or why you didn't make a certain jump or you didn't beat a certain situation. Because once you gain information about your mistakes, that's where you improve. So as a new player who dives deep into a level, you're gonna die for hours straight in the first 2 seconds of the game. You're probably not gonna know why, so you're not gonna progress anyway. So that's why I feel it's really important, especially as a new player, to understand, at least have a general understanding of the mechanics of the game, the physics of the game, how things interact, how things work, so that way you can actually progress and know why you die, know how you can move forward, and then eventually maybe beat the level.
Last question for me about Super Mario Maker. So, Pang, I want to ask you, because obviously you've made a lot of levels, 12 years of making levels when you're 11 years old. Has that led you to have any interest in real professional game design? Because obviously you have, I know making levels is like 2% part of making games. I know that for sure. But that could seem to be an avenue you might be interested in. Did you ever even think about that? Did you attempt? Do you ever any thoughts of doing that?
I have considered it, especially recently. When I was younger, I actually wanted to go in game design, but I decided to go into management of information systems, which is a business degree. My only experience is with 2D platforming, so if I were to actually work on a game, which I have thought about as well, it would be some sort of 2D platforming game. Like, I don't have really any experience with 3D games, which a lot of games nowadays are 3D, which is fine. There's a lot of fun games, but I also have not really a lot of experience with game making programs like Unity or Unreal, since most of my experience comes with Mario Maker or a program which was called Lunar Magics, what we use to make these ROM hacks. I do want to eventually probably learn in case I want to venture outside of the Mario world, but there's actually a 3-year span where I made custom maps in StarCraft Brood War, which is my only experience outside of Mario. But other than that, everything's just been 2D, and we'll see in the next couple of years. I mean, I'm going to stick with Mario Maker 2 as long as I possibly can, but I always keep that thought of being maybe a game design for some company in the back of my head.
That would be cool. I think it'd be awesome for a company to hire you because they'd have instant marketing, like, whoa, Panga's working there. I'm gonna check that out for sure. But Simp, any last questions about Super Mario Maker before we change topics here? Go ahead for it, Simp.
Nothing left on Super Mario Maker 2.
We killed it. We killed
some
it.
Good bases.
There you go, guys. Super Mario Maker 2 is hot. Let's hopefully it stays rolling like that. All right, so let's get to some general speedrunning topics and news that is out there in the world. ESA is rocking and rolling now, guys. Have you guys been keeping up with it? Simply, any runs you've been watching? Thabeast, Panga, you guys watching ESA? You guys keeping tabs on that or what? Let us know.
I have not had a chance.
Not had a chance for Simp. It's Panga, Thabeast.
Yeah, I haven't watched anything, but I do know, I think Big John and some other guys are doing some kind of thing with Mario Maker 2, which I was definitely interested in watching. I don't know when that is, though. I haven't looked at the schedule. Like, I usually like to tune in if there's some cool run. Like, I really like watching the Resident Evil games, too, but I don't know. I've been really busy with Mario Maker 2. So.
Yeah, it's going great, as always. A lot of good runs. The Rick started a great one to start. I'm going to go through all the runs, but yeah, there's a lot of good stuff at ESA, obviously. There's a one Reddit thread that just pissed me off so much, and there's like, why is ESA have less viewership than GDQ and stuff, and there's a lot of reasons that go into that, and it does have a lot less. But one thing you cannot say, and I will not allow anyone to say, when I say it here now, production values are less than a GDQ, because that is just not true. And they work very hard to make sure the video and audio and everything is amazing quality. So don't let that be the reason you don't watch ESA, guys, because it's the same tier quality in terms of production values. And then, yeah, it's rock and roll and stuff. You can check it out if you're not watching already, because it has good stuff. Next topic I want to talk about is a tweet by my man Worcester. And Worcester, I'm going to read it to you guys, or maybe you aren't aware. He said, "I'm really concerned, and have been for a fair while, about how accepted it is to use external programs to aid while speedrunning. It's so commonplace, and it feels very wrong. I already think it's crossed the line, but the point is, it could get even worse. But the point it could get to is even worse." So I want to ask you guys thoughts about that. External programs to help speedrunning. For example, RNG manipulation, maybe things to kind of make sure you get the right seed and stuff like that. What do you think about that, Simp? Let's let you handle it first.
Okay, something like that you need a proper seed or manipulating RNG, and is not manipulation that's within the game, that is definitely crossing the line and is something that I think a lot of people would agree would be not smart to have in the community, just because it's another barrier. But there's things like auto splitter I think might fall under that category, where it's like an external thing that makes it nice for speed running, which is just, it feels like a cosmetic thing in a video game. Like it's not a big deal. It just helps the person. It's not really a big deal. But then you've got stuff where some communities have dealt with it and have had conversations, and others have not quite been there yet. For example, Ocarina of Time community has banned any sort of mapping of analog input to digital input, because it would make things like Hessing and ESS position much easier to do, and would therefore make the entire speedrun, or a lot of parts of the speedruns in Ocarina of Time, a lot easier. And it would just be another handicap that doesn't really make sense to have. You know, I think the idea of speedrunning is that you take this game as it is with the controller, and you do the best that you can with it. And so once you start introducing these little modifications, then it kind of gets crazy. But with Mario 64 right now, they have the new cannonless setup in Jolly Roger Bay, where you map up to a digital input, then you can just mash a button and frame walk up a pillar in the water. And it only saves a couple of seconds. I don't know the exact time. And right now, it's not a huge deal. You know, the community's allowing it, but maybe down the line, it will become more of a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you think about that, Panga?
I agree with Simply for pretty much everything. I think one of the things that should be, if you want to like use external programs for whatever, like, you know, manipulating RNG seeds, I think that should be just a separate category all together.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you have the people that want to do that, they can fight over that category, and then people that actually want to play the game, manipulate in the game without using any external programs to help you aid RNG or whatever, then just do it in the normal game.
Mm-hmm.
The things like the auto splitting, I see that as like a general like quality of life improvement, and doesn't really impact your gameplay wise. I can see that, like, you know, track and field, you have a stopwatch, and you have like maybe your coach telling you, oh, this lap was too fast, this lap was too good. I mean, it's fine. It'll let you know like how you're doing in the spoon itself without actually manipulating anything. So I think things like that is fine. But like when you start having to use those external programs to get a specific outcome before like the game even starts, or like you can't have something out of your control when you play the game, then I believe that should just be a separate category.
Before I let you answer the Beast, I want to add a few examples of what he was talking about. So one example he's talking about is metronome timers people use to, like, you know, in some Pokemon games, for example, as of course is his forte. If you start in a certain second, it'll give you a certain seed, right? So if you say, if you do 7:04 in the morning on Thursday, you get this seed, right? And if you start the game exactly on that time, it'll make that seed happen. So you can use a timer on your, you know, screen that'll say, you know, ready, countdown, and go, right? So it's a gray area, right? Is that it's just a timer in the end, but it is helping you push that start button at the right exact time. So if I add that extra information, Thabeast, what do you think about that? Something like that.
Yeah, like Panga said, I think it's, you know, a lot of games have tons of different categories, and sometimes they can get lost, you know, like I think in most games there's usually one or two main categories that people care about, and then I think in the community they may, you know, if it's somebody in the Pokemon community talking about like Ocarina of Time or something, like I don't think it matters. But if the people like that directly, you know, moderate or play in that game, if they all agree, like, yeah, we like the use of a metronome or some sort of thing to examine RNG like that, like if they like it, I don't think that people should be worried about it if, you know, the majority of the community agrees. And usually when they do that, it's something like it's either fun for the runners or fun to watch, and you know, you can always make a new category, and then people could complain that like, oh, we have too many leaderboards, it's split up, blah blah blah. But yeah, I think that, you know, there's also things like input displays where you plug your controller into this Arduino device to have your inputs show up on screen, and it doesn't do anything except it shows up to make the viewers be able to see what you're pressing and stuff. And a lot of people say it should be like just the controller plugged into the console, no anything crazy. But I mean, you also have like Action Replay or Game Shark codes, whatever, to have save states and stuff for practicing. And I don't know, how different is it saying, well, I can't afford an Action Replay or whatever to get these save states running, so I'm disadvantaged, even though they're not directly using it in the run. They're practicing way more efficiently than someone else. I'm not super involved in any speedrunning communities, but to me as a viewer, like if it doesn't feel like cheating and it's more interesting to watch, I like to see it. But if it feels like they're cheating out on the core part of what makes the run good, then that's obviously where people would say, well, it's not as fun anymore, it doesn't really feel like you're playing the game now. So that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I guess I would.
Interesting.
Go ahead, Sim.
Covered some different bases there. You definitely, different communities handle different things, and so there can't be like a catch-all, because every game has its own community and every game has its own way that it functions. And I think that's why it's such a difficult issue to sort of stand on, because it's a pretty blurry line between, okay, when is this not a problem and when is this becoming a problem?
I think, why don't we have the line where, like, when you use that different, like, simply used it at the pace, they use that separate thing, the arcade stick to get that jump up the pole, like you were talking about.
Yeah,
like, for me, that feels really not, at first, for a showcase race, like, that was awesome, that was hype. But for World Records, that just feels wrong, like, changing controllers in the middle of a run to get something a little bit easier. Because then someone could say, why don't you use that in other times, But what about the line of, like, changing controllers for the Bowser throws, right? Changing,
Right.
Like, it's an endless slippery slope. So I think things that help the viewer experience, like, input displays, auto splitters, that stuff should always be allowed, because it doesn't affect anything really. It just helps the viewers watch, and I think that should be of utmost importance. But then things that make things easier, like changing controllers, like RNG finders, I think that should be easily dismissed. But it seems like there's more to it than that, because obviously it's not happening yet. You know what I mean? If it was an easy answer, it would already be done, right?
It's tough, man. Case by case, it seems like the only appropriate way at the moment when it's such grassroots
stuff. Yeah. All right, guys, let's go to next topic here. Next topic on our docket here. So, Grand Pooh Bear, the Beast himself, another Super Mario Maker 2 legend, has announced his next speedrun sessions. This in this case taking place at Lollapalooza. So this is some new ground, Simp. What do you think?
That, honestly, when I saw that tweet, I had to reread it, because I was like, wait, Lollapalooza? Like, I double-checked the Twitter account, because Lollapalooza is just it's a music festival, right? That's the main appeal.
That's what I thought it was. Back in my day, it was.
Back in my day, we didn't have no speedrunners, all these degenerates out here.
Yeah, so I don't know.
It's cool. It's really cool. I think that speedrunning, we're so deep in the community and we've been seeing it grow. So at least my perspective is, wow, speedrunning's huge. But when I see something like that, I'm like, whoa, speedrunning still has a lot more room to grow. There's a lot of people in the gaming community who know about it, but will speedrunning continue to grow even bigger? And even the average person who doesn't even know anything about games is like, oh yeah, I've heard of speedrunning. It's getting out there. So it's really interesting to see where it's going.
Mm-hmm. I think it's cool to see Zallard get added to the roster after his awesome GDQ run, as I'm sure you guys have seen, at least the highlights. It was awesome. The blindfolded punch out was the most memorable run of the marathon for me, in my opinion, and he got a spot just from that. So there you go, guys. Follow your dreams, and you can get on the schedule there. One last thing I want to talk about. No, two more things I want to talk about, actually. So our boy Cheese just had a chance at a world record a mere hours ago, 2 hours ago. And of course, as you might guess, he failed on the Bowser throws. So, Panga, I want to ask you, how do you deal with pressure? Do you feel any pressure when you're going through? I know you're not a rig like speedrun going for records, kind of not your main thing. But why do you think Cheese is making this mistake? Is there anything you can do mentally? You seem like a very calm guy. You're always in control. What are your thoughts on that? Let's help Cheese here.
Well, at least in my experience, you can't hide the nerves. Like, when you're on world record pace, it doesn't matter how many times you get there, your heart's gonna be pumping. I'm sure I've seen him have the heart rate monitor on before, and even like people like Darbian, who's also super calm when he's getting into World 8 on world record pace, you can see his heart rate approach like 120, 130, 140. But probably the biggest thing you should do is not overthink. Like, a lot of mistakes happen when you start thinking too much, and when you see you're in world record pace, you're like, all right, well, I can't mess this up, or I can only mess this up once or twice before I can't world record anymore. When you start thinking about that, you're already losing the mental battle between yourself, because at that point you're fighting yourself on your nerves, really. So staying calm, staying composed, and just trying not to think too much is probably my best advice. And the fact that most likely or not, you're gonna fail at least once. I can draw parallels to this when I'm trying to upload a really hard level. Like when I get to the last section for the first time, my heart's racing. Like when I uploaded U-Break, which took me 39 hours to beat, I got to the last section around like 25 hours, and I already knew that not only was this the furthest I've ever gotten, I was most likely gonna fail. I'm not saying you should expect failure, but you should be prepared for it, because again, when I brought up learning from your mistakes in the past, that's how you learn to grow, and that's how you learn to prevent the chances of it happening again. So in terms of Cheese missing the Bowser throws, I mean, he's done it before. He can go back and say, all right, why did I miss that throw? That was I too early? Was I too late? Did I let my nerves get the best of me? Was I thinking too much? So when he eventually gets to that point multiple times, he'll start realizing that this is just another run. And I'm just going to do me. I'm going to just do what I've done in practice. I'm not going to think about it. I don't care about world record. I'm just going to do it. And I think that's probably the best way to handle situations where you're almost going to achieve either even world record, a PB, a new personal best, anything.
How about you, the Beast? So yeah, someone that you seem very calm guy. Obviously, you have some experience in pressure situations, winning a tournament. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, for me, I mean, yeah, like Panga said, it's ridiculous. It's kind of like a fight or flight thing kicks in. Your adrenaline's pumping, but you don't want it to. You want to be calm, but your body, it's just kind of it's a thing that happens in a speed run or in Mario Maker, like a hard level. Like, oh man, I'm about to beat this. Like, I really need to focus, and your heart starts racing. You may even get like your vision gets kind of blurry, like you're just kind of spaced out. For me, especially with like a really hard Mario level, if I'm like in my head, I keep dying at the end, I'm frustrated. Eventually, I'm like, well, I've died this many times, I'm probably going to die again, so I just don't care. And I'm like, I think when I get like that, then I don't feel nervous at all. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to fail anyway. And then it kind of helps because I'm just like, I don't feel nervous. I don't feel anxious or anything. So it's just kind of like I'm on a bad run or whatever. And then, it's hard to, if you've done it thousands of times, it's hard to miss if you're on a terrible run. You're just trying to finish. But if you know that you're on record pace, I want this to be over. I want the PB. This is it. I'll be done. And just trying to get those thoughts out of your head, just this is any old run. But just saying that's a lot easier than doing it. You can't really ignore that, wow, this is going really well. It's hard.
Sam, what about you? Put a bow on this. What do you do?
It's really just repetition. I think Cheese is about to do it any day now. He's there's two steps to it, right? Because there's obviously the days where you don't even get the run. And so I think learning to be grateful for the fact that you even got the run and just already, because when you get those runs, at least for me personally, if I lost a run like that, I'm not really that upset. It's more like, wow, I got that run. Like, I was so close. I can do that. If I can do it this time, then I can do it again. And it's way more interesting and way more fun than resetting in the beginning, which I know Cheese has had plenty of times, streaks where you just get caught in the middle, caught in the beginning. And so I think each one that he does is more and more practice. And it's always a new layer. Like, yes, he got 139. That was a huge barrier. But now it's like 138. And now that's in his head. And so it's just a constant battle of being disciplined enough to get back in there and go for it. And, yeah, being grateful, I think, helps a lot.
There you go, guys. So, Panga, the Beast, thanks for your time today. Panga, I'll ask you, where can people check you out if they want to check out more of you online, my friend?
I stream almost pretty much daily at twitch.tv/PangaPanga, and I also have a Twitter at PangaPanga, and I upload my highlights on YouTube, which is Panga TAS.
There you go, the Beast.
Yeah, I stream Mario Maker 2 pretty much every day around 6:30 p.m. Eastern. I also have Twitter and YouTube. They're all Thabeast721, which nobody will ever remember those numbers, but if you somehow do, you can find me.
There you go, guys. Simp, take us home. Final words.
Thank you guys so much for coming on here. It was a pleasure to talk about Super Mario Maker and other speed things. Good luck with your adventures in creating levels and also completing them, Panga and the Beast. Good luck with continuing to go hard, popping off in the Mario Maker world. I hope that you guys can continue to have fun with it, learning new stuff, getting better at the game. And thank you, Alt, for always being an amazing host. And thank you, viewers, for joining us here for this conversation. It has been a pleasure. Thank you very much, guys, and have a wonderful